Hi everyone, Efriko here. Today I'm going to be talking about my Redemption Sentry Spectre Summoner that I league start with and was top 20 with on the ladder, killed Uber Elder, Awakener level 8, and many other bosses with as well. Now, Redemption Sentries is a cold archer that comes from Redeemer influence. So you find it in a Redeemer influence zone, kill one, animate it, and from that point onward you bring it with you and you can desecrate it in your hideout or wherever you go. Now, this is a very tanky character with good clear speed and high single target, and budget I'd say does very well on around 10x in hardcore, and you can scale it up a lot, especially the life and the bit on the damage with even more investment. But it is a league start character, so I've started from scratch currency wise. I wouldn't be too scared of the budget tags on this. Now, let's go over the links real quick. So first off, we have Race Spectre, linked to greater multiple projectiles, pierce, elemental damage with attack support, and minion damage. And for a sixth link, I would add Deathmark into that. That's the main setup. Now, on top of that we have Hatred, linked with Generosity for better damage. Summon Skitterbots for the Chill and Shock, linked with Bone Chill for another 14% more cold damage, thanks to the Bone Chill. We have Ball Lightning, Flame Dash, Race Zombie Feeding Frenzy, Enduring Cry, Increased Duration, Convocation, and then a Trigger Wand, Desecrate, Spell Cascade, Bone Offering. I'll go over why Spell Cascade in a second, and Frost Bomb for the cold exposure, Animate Guardian with Meat Shield and Minion Life support. Now initially I would have the Race Zombie and the Feeding Frenzy in the same links as the Animate Guardian, because you would want to use Ball Lightning, Curse on hit, Frostbite, while later on the goal is to get Frostbite on a ring. Alright, so the trigger has to Desecrate, Bone Offering, but let's see what happens. The corpses, they disappear because of the level 15 Feast of Flesh every 5 seconds triggered by the Devouring Diadem. Now every corpse, the 10 corpses that this helmet eats, is 400 life, 400 energy shield, and 200 mana recovered. So you do want a bunch of corpses for it to eat, but you also want enough corpses for the Bone Offering to go off. Now the Bone Offering combined with the Glancing Blows, that makes you double your block, but you also take 50% of damage from blocked hits, is the main source of defense for this build. Now Bone Offering also has life gain on block, so even though you take 50% of damage, you recover a big portion of the hits you take. And your attack block is capped with a shield and Bone Offering, and you need Mystic Bulwark together with the Bone Offering to end up at 70 spell block. You can use Tempest Shield for the remaining 5% spell block, or get a corrupted spell block shield. Now let's get a bit deeper into the gear. So Devouring Diadem has gems have reduced mana reservation. Now that frees up enough mana for a aspect of the spider skill craft. I prefer these on rings for the belt because the aspect of the spider is affected by support gems, especially increased duration. So it's just, you don't have to worry about that headache when you move around your gems or something like that. And this ring is crafted with Shrieking Essence of Sorrow for the big decks, because you do need one big piece with decks to be able to equip the gems. Alright, the probably most important piece on this build is the +1 maximum number of Spectre chest piece. Now this is a delve mod and can be found in delve nodes that contains minion and aura items. Second most important piece is probably the Jinxed Juju, because it is 10% of damage from hits is taken from your Spectre's life before you. And and a bit of effect of your curses and auras, some nice chaos res, and a good attribute base. Now, the Redemption Sentries have around 130,000 HP this stage, so you don't have to worry about them dying. It's just a very nice defensive layer for you. And Anointed Death Attunement for the +1 maximum number of specters. So we're up to 4 now, and the last specter can be gained from the gem when you get it to level 25. So a level 21 gem with +2 from the Ascendancy, and +1 wand. There's also +2 wands, +1 level of all spell skill gems you can get, and there's +1 level of all race specter gems on elder boots. So you need at least +2 from other sources than the gem and the Ascendancy to get to that level 25 gem. Now, the ring is a Frostbite on hit, Redeemer influenced Vermilion ring. There is Frostbite on hit also from Delve. Nodes that contain cold items can drop Frostbite on hit rings. This is mainly to free up the gem slots. You do lose a bit of damage when you go from the level 20 curse on hit, Frostbite on hit, but I'd say it's worth it to free up some gem slots that you can do a lot of stuff with. Now, one thing I want to mention about the Enduring Cry is it's linked to increased duration. There's also Convocation, of course, so that we can move around our specters. The Enduring Cry is instant thanks to Call to Arms, and with Deep Breaths, the cooldown time is 4.62 seconds of Enduring Cry, and the buff duration together with increased duration is 4.72 seconds. And that is an extra 6% fizz reduction at maximum endurance charges. Now, with the instant, as you can see, you can simply just have the Enduring Cry on left click and move around freely without stopping at all to cast it. Now, I didn't actually have this set up initially on my guy, and it might have saved me from the thing that eventually killed this character, which was an Awakener level 8. But I did kill 4 of them prior to that. It was a misplay, but this version of the skill tree could have actually saved me from that situation, so I do recommend going for that. It does require a thread of hope for it to be perfectly optimal with picking up the glancing blows and deep breaths, but early on you can path into the life here and glancing blows and just leave out deep breaths. Now, let's go over the Ascendancy real quick. So I recommend Mistress of Sacrifice first, so you get that nice defense, then Mindless Aggression into a Natural Strength. If you want the damage, you can just rush a Natural Strength. You don't actually need the Bone Offering Glancing Blows defense while leveling, but it's nice to have. And then last, Bone Barrier, which grants the bone armor that I have on my W, which gives you a 2200 damage shield and also makes you immune to bleeding. And this node gives minion more life, you get some recovery based on the amount of minions, and importantly, 1% additional physical damage reduction per minion up to 10%. Now, for a while I was debating not using zombies at all, but I ended up doing just zombie with Feeding Frenzy linked on its own, and they're actually quite tanky just like that, thanks to the Bone Offering and some minion resist on the skill tree and Jewls. And the Feeding Frenzy is of course a nice damage buff, and we need a couple zombies to get up to that 10 summon minions for the maximum fist damage reduction. So the rest of the skill tree simply focuses on life and minion damage. Elemental Equilibrium, together with Ball Lightning, provides huge damage. Mind over Matter is very important to mention, together with Eldritch Battery from the helmet. Now, Eldritch Battery is up here normally, but the helmet has it. It makes you spend Energy Shield before mana and makes Energy Shield protect mana. Now, Energy Shield protecting mana, together with Mind over Matter, turns this Energy Shield into life. So you can fully reserve your mana and still have a big portion of defense layered there. And you do get the energy shield back very often from the Feast of Flesh. Now, very important, gain 10% of maximum life as extra maximum energy shield. This is a craft that you unveil from Gravicious from the Immortal Syndicate. And that is where the majority of our energy shield comes from. The trigger, by the way, trigger socketed spell is also from the Immortal Syndicate on one-handers. And yeah, that is the gear. I didn't think I mentioned the shield. It is a Victorious Charity. Now, it has life, lightning res, chaos res, AoE of aura skills, and importantly, 5% chance to grant a frenzy charge to nearby allies on hit. Now, frenzy charges is huge damage for minions, and ball lightning hits very often, so this is our way of generating frenzy charges for the minions. These shields are very cheap, but they're also a great source of double corruptions, because shield corrupts are actually quite strong, and especially if you hit a spell block one, then you're capped spell block without Tempest Shield, and there's many other defensive options on shields, so that is the double corrupt target for the build. Now the belt, it is a Hunter Stygian Vice. You can just go for normal Hunter belt or just a normal Stygian Vice. Later on, investing into a Hunter one, if you really want to min-max the build, mainly provides a bit of extra life. I do like having the Ghastly Eye in the Stygian, get some minion res, maybe some damage, have life and regen on this one, for example, a bit of energy shield as well. Now, on Jewls, you're just looking for max life, minion damage, minion res, and resist for yourselves as well. Obviously, this one is pretty insane, but I wouldn't mind dropping minion damage to get some like this one. The minion res is important to keep your zombies alive mainly. Now, Luster Jewls. Luster Jewls is a big source of damage and some nice life. Renewal is the biggest damage one on this is a minion large cluster jewel, 8 passives is the most efficient. And Renewal is 1% life regen, and minions have 10% chance to deal damage while they are on full life. So basically 10% more damage. And Feasting Fiends is bit of life, bit of damage, and Minion Leech. Now the Minion Leech is nice to make sure that they're on full HP as often as possible for that renewal buff. And last, but also big damage, is Vicious Bite, which is crit and crit multi for your minions. Now this is the only crit modifier on large cluster jewels for minions, so it can be targeted with the crit augment from Harvest. And then we have effect of non-curse auras from your skill mediums. 4 or 5 passive skills is the same. And for this we are looking for Vengeful Commander, then Precise Commander is the biggest secondary one, but you can go with Replenishing as well for some nice regen. Now the small ones are percentage max life ones with Fettle. It's the biggest life one you can get, but they're also quite rare to roll and maybe cost a bit if you want to buy it straight up. So initially I would recommend Sublime Sensation, which is max life and increased maximum energy shield. Quite easy to roll and almost the same as a Fettle because you get the energy shield as well. I think that covers the skill tree. So now we are on the Animate Guardian. Now there is a budget setup for the Animate Guardian and a more expensive setup. Initially, like I said earlier, I think I have Raise Zombie and Feeding Frenzy in the same setup. Animate Guardian, free up the links for Curse on Hit, Frostbite with the Ball Lightning before you get the ring. And honestly, the Animate Guardian is quite tanky, so the minion life is a bit overkill. But I'll get into the Animate Guardian gear now. Alright, so the budget setup is a Dying Breath, which gives damage and effect of curses. Leercast, which is a bit of damage. Southbounds, just big life and cold res for your Guardian. And Victorious Flight, which provides movement speed for you and nearby allies. So those items provide a nice damage buff and a bit of speed as well. And for the chest piece, you're just looking for like around 30 fire and lightning res, nothing more than that, to make sure that he's always capped resist so he doesn't die to elemental damage unnecessarily. And I do recommend setting that up around when you have like a level 19 animate guardian. He should be tanky enough, and if he does die, this gear costs a couple chaos, it's no big deal. But when we move up to the next tier in terms of cost for the animate guardian, then we want to be a bit more precious with his defense. So the important thing here is Kingmaker. Nearby allies have Culling Strike, and nearby allies have 50 crit multi. Nearby allies have Fortify. Fortify is 20% less damage taken from hits, so it's a huge defensive layer, and this provides a lot of damage as well to our minions. So these cost a bit, and they're annoying to replace, so at this point we want to up the guy's defense. So we do that by giving him Mask of the Stitched Demon instead of Lair Cast. Makes it so energy shield starts at 0, but per 500 maximum energy shield you gain 1% regen. Now, the Animate Guardian with minion life, in my case, has around 65,000 maximum life, and that's not counting the gear he's wearing. So it's around, let's say, 70,000 to make it easy to calculate. So if you give him a chest piece that has 10% max life as extra maximum energy shield, that translates to 14% life regen together with the Mask of the Stitched Demon. Now, I've never seen my Animate Guardian go down below 30%, and that was instantly healed up. So, like I said, the minion life support is a bit overkill. If you're starved on sockets, you can consider dropping it, and I think he shouldn't die even with that setup. He will lose a bit of regen, so yeah, do consider that. Now, there is a step even further past that, which is basically what I recommended: a Fire Lightning rest chest piece with the craft, max life as extra maximum energy shield, but also with you can apply an additional curse. Now, curse on hit is a stat on gloves, so you can corrupt Enfeeble or Eliweak on southbounds or temp chains, and as long as the Animate Guardian has the you can apply an additional curse, it won't actually overwrite your curse, but simply add an additional curse onto the target, so more damage with Eliweak or more defense with Enfeeble or temp chains. That is like something very endgame min-maxy you can do once you have the rest of your gear in a very good spot. Something to consider. Alright, that is what I wanted to take on those things. So now we have leveling of the build. I should quickly mention Bottle Faith, a lot of damage and a lot of regen. These cost like 10x or something, so that's a big investment. So, like I said, you can do this build pretty cheaply, but it scales up more and more with investment, but it's not necessary. Like, I was doing T15s with 5 Link and 4 Spectres. At that point, I did feel like it was time for a damage upgrade, but like it wasn't an actual struggle. Speaking of damage, for a single target, you want to switch in Hypothermia over GMP, and if you really want to max out the damage, you can do Cold Pen over Pierce. It's a very small upgrade damage-wise, so I only really do it for like Shaper, Uber Elder, stuff like that. And you really want a white socket on one of these green, because then you can switch out Pierce for Elemental Focus for single target. That will be a big damage increase. I have tried, but as you can see, we have 2 white sockets that are not on the green. What can you do? Right, I forgot to mention, crafting +1 or +2 wands is something you can pretty easily target. Takes around 5 to 10 attempts with Corroded, Jagged, Shuddering, and Metallic. Corroded, Jagged, Shuddering, Metallic, yeah. in a prime resonator. Do keep that in mind before you go spending a lot of currency on one. You might want to try to roll one yourself, depending on the cost of resonators and fossils. Now I'll talk about leveling a bit while we run this Lair of the Hydra. It is a monster damage frenzy map, by the way, in case I didn't show. So it is a bit of damage mods, but no tanky mods. Now leveling this build, I leveled as Spellslinger VD and respect like 20-25 points when I found the Spectre. I'll skip the Cassia. But you can level it as minions, specters, or like skeletons SRS. The best way to level it is if you have a friend or somebody in global chat whose hideout you can go to and simply animate the specters, because you can use them while leveling, it's just that you can't find them while leveling. So that would be the best way to level it. And yeah, the Spellslinger VD was quite straightforward for me, but like I said, it does take a bit of respect points. Took her like 25 regrets. But to me, that's not a problem. Just wanted a bit of a smoother league start. But if you want to level it as a summoner, that is no problem at all. And as you can see, it's pretty smooth. You just keep running, cast some ball lightning, get that curse on hit. The GMP Pierce is all you really need for clear. Convocate every now and then to make sure they're in a good spot. But yeah, I feel like for the amount of single target this build has, it's quite good clear. So speaking of single target, let's show that off immediately. So it's a Hydra, no tank mods. Gonna go up soon. I'm gonna hold off on the oh, well, it took a long time. I actually could have killed her if I put Bottle of Faith down, but oh well, there she is. And we're gonna get a bunch of bonus objectives because we're in standard. So yeah, the single target is quite good, and so is the clear. Now, this is probably the smoothest League Star character I've had. So yeah, I do recommend it if it looks interesting. Started it from scratch, no currency, and been building it up ever since. There's a lot of min-maxing to do if you're into that, but like I've mentioned, it does well on a medium-sized budget as well. Items to prioritize in order, once again, is the Spectre chest, then then Jinx Juju, and then probably Devouring Diadem and the remaining levels required to get to the 25 gem. Alright. If you have any questions, drop a comment down below or catch me live on stream. I'll be linking the path of buildings for this character down in this description. There is multiple skill trees in here, like the VD leveling skill tree and how it will look without cluster jewels, and you just want to max out the damage, how that looks, and so on. So yeah, have a look. I also put the Animate Guardian gear into the notes if you forget or want to double check that. So yeah, thanks for watching. Hope you guys enjoy the build.